All right, it's 5:30 on Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. We'll start with roll call.
Carmen.
Present.
Buska.
Yes.
Fortune. McConnell.
Here.
Creener.
Yes.
Next is the consent agenda. That includes approval of the agenda, approval of the claims, approval of minutes from August 21, 2023, approval of a parade permit for portions of Schroeder Drive, 3rd Avenue East, and 2nd Street East for homecoming parade on September 15th, 2023. Approval of street closing permit for portions of Valley Manor Drive for a block party for Robbie and Vicky Howard on September 16th. Rain date September 17th, 2023. And number 6, approval of Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service to Barbara E. Holstrom, DBA The Pub.
So moved. Second.
Buska.
Yes.
Creener.
Yes.
McConnell.
Yes.
Carmen.
Yes.
Next is staff reports.
The street department finished up chip sealing for the year. They might still go out and do Airport Road. There's one culvert that needs to be installed down there by Hawkeye Sanitation yet. Just depends on that time frame. But for now, they are finished up. The water and sewer departments have been repairing the water main patches around town in the streets. So obviously the one up on 8th Avenue will be finished up tomorrow. Hopefully open Friday at some point in time. Then there's a manhole that needs to be replaced up there on 12th Avenue. It's a sewer one. That and maybe about 40 feet of pipe. The bottom was eaten away by, I don't know if it was some acid from before or what it was, but it's bad, needs to be replaced. And then just a quick project update. The downtown, phase 4 from Murphy Cone Smith should have all the concrete poured this week, I do believe. Then they started pouring concrete curb and gutter this afternoon for phase 5, and they will start the crosswalks once all the sidewalk and everything is finished. Then the 7th Street, they are through Highway 9 with concrete poured back and have finished up the sanitary sewer up 7th to Stock Avenue, and they started the water main today. The plan is to open Highway 9 Friday around noon. It might be sometime later in the afternoon, depending on how much work they get accomplished. And then they're starting tomorrow. I believe they're going to break up the rest of 7th Street all the way up to 4th Avenue. Cars will still be able to drive on it until the road deteriorates too much, but they plan on starting removals of that concrete next Wednesday. Then 7th Street will be shut down for good.
Just one more on that 7th Street project.
Yep.
And we probably discussed this, but mailbox, garbage pickup, do these people know where they're going with their mail and stuff up there? Is the post office kind of gonna corral that? Do they go to a corner or something?
Yep, I believe that's all home delivery there.
Yes, mailbox, yep.
Yep, which should not be affected, I wouldn't think. But the garbages, they'll have to take it to the nearest block.
Well, they got mailboxes up there on 7th.
Yeah. If there is, then there's going to have to be temporary mail, or they can hold it, I believe, is one thing that was brought up, but I would rather see them get it delivered daily. So we'll have to figure something out for that.
Okay.
Is that between the homeowner and the post office to figure out? Or is it?
I'm uncertain. I would say it'd be on the contractor. So,
Okay.
Yep. And then
Put a bank of mailboxes up on a corner and
I would assume
they
something
go
like
there
that.
and get it themselves at that?
Yep.
Okay.
And then for the tower project, I will let Tim Wilson with Dixon Engineering give the update on that.
Okay.
On the sidewalk project, will all the sidewalks be open within what time frame?
Oh, it's going to be probably all of a couple, 2 to 3 weeks yet, I would say.
Before there, it looks like there wasn't a lot of cement left to do, but
Yep, so all of phase 5 needs concrete or
Yeah.
sidewalk yet.
Yeah.
But you need at least a week of cure time.
Okay.
That's the kicker. So I'd say 2 to 3 weeks.
okay. And then all the sidewalks should be done.
Correct. Then they'll start in on the crosswalks.
Okay. All right. Police is not here today. Administration?
Just busy with a lot of trainings. Nikki signed up for a few trainings in the month of September and October. Her and Tony both went to O-Line today for a training on street finance report. We did apply for that housing assessment grant that we had talked about at the last meeting. We read a sample report from Iowa State University and thought hopefully will be helpful. And Michelle Barnes with Upper Explorer Land is going to be on our housing committee and working really closely with it. So hopefully we can do the comp plan and the housing assessment grant all at the same time. So we're hopeful it will work good. We'll
Okay.
hear about that in October, I think October 15th.
Okay, anything else on that?
No.
Any committee updates? Any comments from the audience?
I got just a couple. You probably heard
You want to come up? Yeah. In case people forgot what you look like.
I got just a couple. Maybe y'all heard our grant for the overlay on the airport runway did not get approved again this year, which tells me our concrete is probably not as bad as everybody says it is. 'Cause there's some that are apparently worse, so we'll apply again next year.
Sure.
We got some cracks. I got Claire looking into some cracks, seeing if we need to do anything temporary with them to get us by until for another year or so. The other thing is I'm getting several different calls about our land being used for everything but what the guy rented it for, Wayne Moss. He wants to start doing custom application on seeds next week,
Right?
and he needs a lot of room for semi-parking for the different seeds. I talked to a guy this spring from Rochester. He visited with Wayne. I thought they had everything smoothed out. I don't know if they've done anything, but
And you're talking about the stuff for the road construction project?
yeah,
So he's got 4 acres, right?
yeah,
Are they marked in any way, shape, or form?
they used to be. They used to
And
be
how-
staked out.
Staked with what kind of stakes? I mean, nothing
They're-
permanent, I
they're,
assume?
Wood stakes with flags on them.
And are those not there anymore?
There's a couple way on the far end that way, so.
So what's sitting on? Is it just a cement?
He had a lot of crushed rock up there that he had for his parking lot and whatnot else. You guys pretty well took over that.
Yep, and I made a comment today, and I made a comment to Rich yesterday that, and I talked to Ryan, that all that stuff that's on this crushed rock needs to be removed before he starts Monday. So that will be moved. I don't know if he got to it this afternoon, but he said he was
I was
going
just
to,
out there,
so.
there was nothing moved.
Yeah, so it'll be moved before he comes down here.
Because they're all struggling where to park their trucks.
Right, yep, I made certain
I
that,
got no answer for 'em.
yeah, I made certain that they knew that that stuff needs to be removed from that crushed rock. So he has just as much space as he had last year and everything
Yeah.
else, so.
So the concern is the 4 acres that he's rented,
Well, yeah, he's paying good money for his rent.
Yeah.
He hasn't been able to use them yet this year.
right?
The only thing
But,
he can use is this little spray pad that he can get his plane on. But-
right, but there's nothing outside his 4 acres that's a concern to him then?
Well, he had one question he asked me. He says, how high was that black dirt pile? I said, I don't know. He says, if you're more than 15 feet high and you're within 350 feet of the center of the runway, he says FAA could shut you down.
Hmm,
Could ask that to be lowered. I don't know how high that pile is. I have no idea.
I don't either.
It's got to be up there ways, but
Yeah.
just be prepared if that happens.
Is that pile going away this spring or this fall yet?
This fall, I guess.
Yeah.
You might get by until then.
I see
Because
there's,
we just got to get his property cleaned off, and so he got access to it. And
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what he's been after all year, yeah. I don't know if we want to compensate them guys somehow, or, I mean, he's paying good money for rent.
did he use it this summer or would he have used it?
He couldn't,
But, I mean, he would have,
no, he was in there spraying, but they just brought in one truck at a time and backed it in the corner and lowered it, and
Well, but this is the first we heard of it. Why didn't he say something?
I've been working with Rich.
it's been brought
I
up.
just knew about it when we talked to that one day.
Yeah.
is that his camper out there too? Do you know?
I don't know who's
Did
getting
it get to you?
It probably is,
We talked to Ryan
because
about
they're
it a few
talking
different
about
times.
spending a week and a half up there.
Yeah, I talked to Nate about a month ago.
Yeah.
A month ago, I talked to Nate about moving stuff.
And it was brought
Well,
up.
in the meantime, the project manager from, I thought he said he was from Rochester, had called Wayne, and we was leaving on a trip or something, and I didn't hear no more, so I figured they must have come out okay, but, and they did at the moment, but,
Yeah, because every time it's been brought up to me, I get a hold of Scott, and Scott gets a hold of Ryan. because Ryan's the one that ultimately has to get the stuff moved.
And he's the Gen X.
Correct.
I think I might have been the person on the phone, and Ryan had been working directly with him.
Right.
About what he needed to move when.
Yep.
And
Yeah, so it wasn't falling on deaf ears by any means.
I
So-
know, when Johnson started doing some cover crop, Matt Minear called me and he says, "Where am I supposed to park all my trucks?"
Yeah, I saw that.
I says, I don't know. This is the end of that little runway on that grass strip down there, you know. So they got by, but he wasn't really happy with it.
There wasn't room out in that parking lot where the trucks camp overnight or for a week or whatever?
Not for the amount of stuff they bring up. Amount of trucks they bring up blows your mind. They got a truck for every seed there is.
Oh,
And they mix it. So I mean, going forward, so that we know that Monday he's going to be here.
Mhm.
So basically it's Wednesday today, so it's Thursday, Friday. It's got to be out of there. Because I don't think anybody's going to be moving it on Saturday.
So I guess I'm still confused. You talked to Richards, talked to Nate, Nate talked to Scott, and Scott talked to Gen X, who promised something was gonna happen, and nothing happened.
And Ryan contacted Wayne Moss.
Okay, so why is Wayne unhappy?
I think it was supposed to be out of there by now.
But you said
Reason-
you said this was prior,
Yep. So when he wanted to spray,
right?
we had it really covered. Now he wants to start doing cover crop.
Right.
That takes a lot more ground for his equipment.
Right, so let's go back to when he wanted to spray, he asked for it to be moved, it wasn't moved?
I don't know what Ryan and Wayne's deal was. I have no idea. That was between them.
So.
I was not involved in those
Just enough
conversations.
for him to get a truck back in and.
I think
So-
right now, we just need to make sure that he's able to go
He's-
Monday
he's worried-
morning.
He's worried about Monday when he has 3, 4 trucks pulled in, where they're gonna park and how they access them and things like that.
so I think we need to have a little more permanent markings out there probably for now, so.
You know,
whatever.
he kind of thought he did have it marked off, but apparently.
I mean, who marked it off? Did you, I mean, somebody from the city or you or?
I'm assuming him and somebody, I don't know, Nate was.
I was not involved. Nope.
Because even though he has a lease on it, there's no legal description, I
We farmed
suppose.
it, we farmed around it,
Yeah,
so.
but there's no legal description that says this spot here is exactly yours, right? It's kind of mushy.
I
suppose.
don't know, we'd have to
I think
look in
that's
the
right,
airport.
I read
We'd have to
the
look in that
lease.
contract.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
We
don't
didn't pay
think
for a
spent
survey
money
or
on it for the
anything.
survey.
right. I mean, to me, it would be important to have them marked and keep off the grass or something on them, but,
But I mean, it was, I mean, Claire was the process, he done all the line mowing and that, but,
okay.
and we
Under
farmed
normal
around it.
circumstances, we would not have had this problem, and we just need to get it gone by Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
and that's all he's asking.
Yeah,
Give me
okay.
some operating room. You know, between you and me, spreading cover crop this time of year, as dry as it is, I would be livid whether I spent my money on it.
Right,
But some
right.
farmers are doing it, you know,
right, okay.
so. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
thanks,
And nothing
Jerry.
else? Okay, thank you. Anything else from the audience? If not, we have 2 employee anniversaries this month. Wendy Bohr at the Fitness Center is celebrating her 26th anniversary. And Lonnie Lenahan in the Street Department is celebrating his 5th anniversary with the city. And I know Wendy has retired as well. She'll be around for a little bit longer and then be retired.
She's
so.
done working,
Yeah.
but yeah, she's on
Yeah,
vacation.
so thank you to both of you for how you helped the city be a beautiful place. Next, move on to the regular business. We'll start with number 1, the public hearing for the budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Any comments on the public hearing?
And I did not receive any written or oral.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Number 2, resolution amending the current budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Carmen?
Yes.
Creener?
Yes.
Buska?
Yes,
McConnell?
Yes.
Next, number 3, Tim Wilson with Dixon Engineering to update on the water tower rehab project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
it worked out pretty well. Nate emailed me yesterday and asked if I had some updated information on tower progress, and I had it in my plan to come and update you anyway for some tower progress at some point, so it worked out well to be able to come here this evening and talk to you a little bit more about it. As we've kind of discussed a little bit before the meeting started, it's progressing nicely. Weather's been very cooperative for the crew that's there. It was certainly warm, late August, but they've moved right along. The exterior has been, as the way our specification was written, it was fully washed with a low pressure wash on the exterior, fully blasted, abrasive blast cleaned is what we refer to it as. Nobody really sandblasts anymore, so they blast with a coal slag is what they use to blast the exterior, and the exterior has been 100% prime coated, so that is done. That allowed them to get that portion out of the way and shift gears and move to the interior, where they have probably, it's 100% blasted in the wet interior as well, and they've probably got somewhere around 35 to 40% of the wet interior primed. Today, I stopped there just prior to coming to the council meeting tonight, and they're still in the process of removing spent abrasive from the wet interior. As you can imagine, that's a lot of material they have to shovel down to get out of the tank, and they're in the process of that. All of the other additional metal repairs and weld work has been completed. So the step-off platform, some of the handrail modifications and roof hatch modifications that were part of the project, that was all done prior to them starting to blast. So I got a little out of order, but they completed all that before they did any of the blast work. So the information that I have to operate from now is that they're anticipating being done by the end of September. Original substantial completion date for the project, the final date had to be done by the end of October. They got started a little bit earlier than we anticipated, but they were in here to get here, and by all accounts, they should be done by the end of the month, which will still definitely be within their maximum amount of service days for what we had projected for them.
Perfect.
Have they found anything that disturbed them or that was unusual or unexpected?
To speak maybe to the questions about any equipment that runs, all night long, that is actually by design. That is the dehumidification equipment that we require on a tank project for the wet interior to make sure that they have the appropriate ambient conditions. What we prefer, there's two different ways you can go about it. When you blast steel down to bare metal, it will flash rust over a period of time, which then prevents you from being able to prime coat it before you have to blast it again. That's what they did on the exterior, so they blasted and would prime as they go so that they could get that prime coat on. In the interior, we require them to utilize dehumidification equipment to basically what we call hold that blast. So we're creating weather inside that tank to hold the appropriate ambient conditions so the steel won't flash rust. We're still verifying that it's not, but that's what that DH sits there and runs all night for. That's what you hear, particularly in the evenings when the temperatures cool off. That's when you would get that rusting to take place. So that will continue to run. That will run throughout the rest of the coats that are utilized in the wet interior because it also aids in the cure process. So the paint cures more efficiently, but they'll have a prime coat, a stripe coat, intermediate coat, and a top coat to go in the wet yet. And then on the exterior, they will have an epoxy intermediate coat, urethane intermediate coat, and a top coat yet to go on the exterior. So the noise and commotion of the site is pretty much done. It's going to get quiet now. For those that live close, it'll be nice to not have the noise of the blast process. So that is pretty well done. So it'll get much quieter other than that DH unit running and generators, things like that.
So going forward with this, when those guys are done and people come back to put their attachments, their antennas and stuff on, if I stand correct that they're going on that top rail on the very top?
To be determined. You know, a lot of the antennas that were there before were all on the balcony handrail.
Yes.
I would encourage them to go up on the top, to get up away from that balcony, if it's at all possible. I visited with Michelle and Nate a little bit today, and Drew as well. We're working on putting a kind of an amendment to our agreement together to work with those antenna providers so that they submit to us what they're going to reinstall.
Yeah.
And then we will verify that reinstallation once it's complete.
And there'll be no metal-to-metal contact?
Correct. That's the main.
Yes.
Utilizing the appropriate boots, brackets, all the correct things to mount that equipment properly compared to what was there. I think maybe I alluded to it before when I was at a previous meeting, but a lot of that equipment, maybe when they installed it, you could tell from my inspections when I was there prior to the project kicking off, they had all the right equipment to start with. And as they installed more and they worked their way around the handrail, it was almost like they ran out of the brackets that came with the antennas, and then it was hose clamps and auto parts store and whatever it took to get the things going.
Electrical ties.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you're
ties.
saying your amendment, that way you'd be installing it, or?
No, we would
Yeah.
review their drawings that they would submit to us so that that information is all known ahead of time, what's going up there.
Okay.
And doing that serves a purpose for them to know that somebody's watching. And then also, it would include services for us to come and verify that they did what we told them they needed to do. Because all the instruction in the world is only as good as the honest people that follow it. And I'm not saying they're not, but you want to make sure it gets done right and you don't have anything like what you did have to start with. I guess is the best way I can do it. Right.
How many different providers are up there?
Three.
Yes.
Three is what we had talked about anyway.
Right.
2 different wireless internet providers and then a CB somebody.
There was a dozen, 15 attachments all over that thing.
Yeah.
And it'll be that same number again?
That'll be up to them.
Some of those were abandoned.
Yeah, but
You know, the
that-
school
my-
had some up there and.
My
different
assumption is a
people's.
lot of the stuff that was up there was abandoned, and that's the other thing that we work to really try and hard to avoid is that they don't just abandon in place.
Sure.
You know, and that would be something that we could continue to work with you on in the future as they approach you and say, you know, we want to change this equipment out, we want something different. We do a lot of work with cellular providers in that category as well. We have a whole department of people, in fact, that are dedicated to just working with cellular providers on a lot of our tank projects. So stuff comes and goes, and the idea is that when they decommission something, it needs to go, not just stay there because it's not worth anything to them, and they have to pay money to come take it down. But that's well within the city's boundaries to make them remove the stuff that's not there.
Sure.
What's the city's liability as far as people that climbing up that tower? And I know that the crew that's working on it, they're probably all trained and certified
Yep.
and got their stuff, but the people that actually go up and install the antennas on the rails and on the overhead, I mean, is that their responsibility? Who's liable for when they're up there installing those antennas?
They would have their own employee insurance and liability, but just like anything else, the city's probably, you know, if something bad happens to somebody, there's always legal. There's always a
I mean,
lawyer.
We do have
realistically,
agreements
Realistically,
written
the
up by the
city shouldn't have
attorney
any of
We
that
do.
for
liability.
each of them.
It should be written into your lease agreements that you don't have any of that liability or they indemnify you.
okay.
That's what it's written, but if it holds up.
It's just my observation that when I watch people deconstructing their antennas and stuff up there, some of these people, you know, I know that are not licensed or educated in climbing up in these areas, so
Sure.
that was a concern I intended to bring up, but if we have a contract and we're not liable, then so be it.
Well, the company would be liable.
Your lease agreement should have a clause in there that indemnifies you
Okay.
from that. I've not seen them, but I would assume it does.
Perfect.
Okay. And
This is a really weird question.
I'll
But-
lie to it.
Okay, there are, I call it a crown of thorns holding up the top of the skirt, right?
That's
Yes.
the plates they welded on.
The containment system,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay. I have a picture in case I'm not being quick. How, they either have to paint before or after those are removed. I presume they would paint before because Gary doesn't want paint on his house. Then they have to remove it.
Those areas all have to be touched back up.
Okay,
The way those arms are all welded on to the roof of the tank. So every one of those spots, every one of those arms will require additional touch-up work after the arms are
Okay,
removed.
okay. They're welded onto the tank?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's probably a lot of the reason why, depending on the day, maybe those of you that have been by or Gary being across the street, you probably noticed, if it's windy, they won't have that containment up.
Yeah.
The expense involved with any drift of materials or paint is one thing. The expense involved with losing your containment is another. And the expense involved with whatever your containment lands on when you lose it is another. So they're very sensitive about keeping that down when the wind is high enough, because you can lose it, you can take it. There's just enough surface there that the wind can catch it.
How long do we expect before we would paint the outside again?
You should very easily, with the coating system that we're applying there, I wouldn't anticipate anything before another 15 to 18 years.
Okay. How about the interior?
Same.
Same, 15 to 18 years?
Yep, even go longer on the interior. The interior coating, I've seen those go a little bit longer, but that's what I would plan to
Yeah.
budget for.
Yeah. And we inspect the interior every couple of years?
We were doing 3 to 5 years.
Is that what it was? Okay.
So I'd be talking 2041.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Tim? Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank
Tim.
Next on the agenda is Scott with WHKS to present an update on the projects, possible change orders.
All right, thank you. So Nate kind of went over the update on 7th Street there. Big one to note is Highway 90 open up on Friday. The only other thing I'll note on there is a little bit of blacktop pavement in front of Sleepy Hollow. That's also going to get done next week. As far as schedule goes, we're making good progress. They are going to be trying to get all the utilities installed here yet this fall through October, which they're making good headway on there. So as far as the changes go, last time when I presented to council, mentioned that when we started digging the pond on the south end of town, that during the excavation, a large quantity of rock was found. So since we were here last time, the contractor has cleaned up all the rock areas that they excavated. We went down there, we did a topographic survey of the area to get what the current pond volume was. And then working with the contractor, we came up with a change proposal that would still satisfy all of the all the goals that we had going forward with the original pond, which was to reduce the downstream volumes during the storm events 2, 10, and 100 year. And so what I'm here to talk about today is we have come up with a solution that we would modify the outlet structure on the pond. So the outlet structure basically holds back the water. Previously, it was lower, it was letting more water in. This new outlet structure actually raises up higher, so we're holding back more water. The one adverse effect of that is previously the water was going to come up to about a foot from the top of from the pond itself. Because we have to hold that water somewhere, we're going to raise the outlet structure, and the water in the pond is going to rise up to just to the top of the pond. So we're still able to meet all of the events. The overall volume in the pond is reduced. However, we're able to make up that volume by pushing that water up higher up. So, so that is the change order number 1 that I'm here to discuss, and happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Once that pond, let's say we get a big rain and that pond is full to the top, how long is it going to take to drain that pond out?
So because of the proximity to the runway, the pond does have a requirement to be dry in 48 hours. So it will be
48
hours or less.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that can't change no matter what, right? That's an
Correct.
FAA requirement.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep, we're bound by that.
Yep.
So that change order we're discussing then, is there a fee or is there a cost associated with that?
So this change order would be for $0. Generation X would be absolving or they'd be incurring the cost on changing the outlet structure. However, they would be compensated for the excavated volume of the pond based on the original amount. So that original excavation volume included actually moving the dirt, but then it was also salvaging the dirt, replacing the dirt, shaping the pond. And what this agreement would be is, all right, so you had this excavated volume, or reduced from there because it was rock, but we're gonna pay that full amount. You're gonna do all the other requirements of that excavation. You're gonna pay for the change in the structure, and then it would be no change in the contract dollar amount.
Okay.
When it's all said and done, the end result is gonna be where originally started, we're just not gonna have the depth. Basically,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're from 95 to 90. That's what I thought. I
Percent,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're at 90% of what the original area was.
Okay.
You know, what that really means is after that 100-year event, if you have a 500-year event, you don't have that additional little bounce in the original pond. But we are addressing every storm event up to the 100-year.
Well, if we have a 500-year event, the city's underwater.
That'd be at least for our problems down there.
So, can I ask one question? If our 100-year event is maybe once in a 150-year event, what happens to the excess water going that way? Will it just flood out over the airport ground, or?
So there's a safe overflow. They call it safe because we don't have a dam, we don't have anything that it would breach that we would be expecting a catastrophic event. But the overflow is along the airport and then down to Vernon Road, and then it would make its way from Vernon Road down to.
So it would stay along that east fence line there. I don't know if have you been down there to look at that pond at all, Jerry?
Quite a few times.
Okay, so along the east side where they shaped it, it would follow that fence line down to the ditch over there on Vernon Road.
So it stays away from the runways then?
Intended to, yep.
Yeah.
Well, the runway's quite a bit higher than.
Right. Right,
And hopefully away from the dog pound.
correct.
Yes. So it'd be on the east side, it goes down to Vernon Road.
Right.
And that would be before the driveway then, coming into the airport?
It would probably go, excuse me, it'd probably go right over that driveway into the ditch on Vernon Road.
So
You're talking the gravel driveway off of Vernon Road? That
Yes.
goes in, yeah, yeah,
Which makes sense.
yep. Right,
So ultimately, it's going to do what was intended originally?
Correct. Yeah, it's gonna reduce the volumes for the people downstream.
Right.
I'll just note that when we talk about the 100-year storm, nowadays it's probably more like a 75-year storm or something like that. But I have no objection to the changes that are made.
Okay.
I mean, there's always going to be a storm somewhere that's going to overtop. It's
So that-
just that theoretically, well, not theoretically, actually, it's going to come more frequently than we expect.
They're just different now.
So you need a vote
So we need a resolution on that?
to go forward with this then?
So he'll have to write up the change order and we'll officially approve it next meeting. But if you guys would make a motion tonight, then they could proceed with working on it before we do the official
I'll make
change
it.
order.
I'll second it, or whatever.
So McConnell and Creener?
Yep.
McConnell,
Yes.
Carmen,
Yes.
Creener,
Yes.
and Buska.
Yes. And I'd like to thank Scott for the time he took. The changes they're making were not at all obvious until he, like,
Yeah.
Big
showed it.
project.
Yeah. Do you have more for us, I mean?
No, I was going to just go on to the next item.
Yep.
Okay. So So I have two change orders, or excuse me, I got two pay requests in front of you. I'll go through the 7th Street one first. Things are progressing well on there. There should be no surprises on here other than the pond discussion. So I don't have anything more on that pay request. And then the downtown update, I think did a good job explaining where we're at on that. I agree that by probably the 18th, that all the walks in front of the buildings are going to be able to walk on. There might be a couple infill spots that aren't there, but everyone should have full access again.
Thank you very much.
Good, Tim.
On that project.
Scott, when they do the crosswalks, will they do one side of the street all the way down at the same time, just shut off half of Main Street? And do you know how that,
So those discussions have somewhat started. We don't have a full plan at this point. The discussion's been on 2nd Avenue west of Elm about doing that one here the next week, and then North and South Park Place, kind of on the east and west. Then after that, I guess if there's any input from the council on how to proceed about doing multiple ones on the south half or multiple ones on the north half, we've kicked it around, but we don't have a plan per se in place on how we're going to tackle that yet.
So if you were to do the whole way across, how, from start to finish, where people can drive on it again, how long are you talking?
We're probably talking that, well, say.
10 days?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're gonna need a day to remove it.
Yeah.
So that's gonna take a bit, and then you're gonna need to pour it back. So yeah, that, probably 8 days, I mean, if you can remove it the day before. Depends on what you're doing, if you're doing
Right.
4 of them south of 2nd, you know, that could all be shut down for a week and a half, and then you switch it over to the other side and do that, or I don't think we'd wanna do them all.
Right, if you did half, theoretically, you wouldn't have to shut the street down at all? Or would you still want to?
Yeah, we talked about if you could do like east or west half and keep traffic from going through. The downside of that is how much parking you're gonna be losing.
Mhm.
You're gonna be losing a lot of parking, and you're probably better off just biting the bullet and doing the full width. You know, we could do the ones
Right.
right next to North and South Park Place, and then have people come in from the back sides, or we could do them at the far north side or south side.
Okay.
well, whatever proposal we need to do, it's gotta be as quick and painless for the downtown people as we can.
It might be something to talk to the retail committee at the chamber too and see if they have an idea. I don't know.
Might not be a bad idea.
When's their next meeting?
Not until the end of the month.
Of September. And they'll be on it and done, or be on it before that, so. I don't know, maybe talk with Jason, just see what he thinks too, but, I mean, if one way or the other, I mean, you really don't know if one way, if you do half, or if you do the whole thing, the time frame for all of it is unknown, if one would be quicker than the other.
I think you're probably be quicker by doing the full width.
Full width,
You think so?
yeah. And I think it's gonna be a whole lot less congested if you just do full width.
Sure.
So otherwise you can get people that wanna go down it, and, I mean, I think it'd be more of a disaster doing half and half.
Okay.
East-west rather than north-south.
I mean, if that's the case, then maybe that's, I guess,
If we make a judgment call on that, and then I don't know if you've had good feedback on the updates that we've been sending out. You know, we'll definitely post that in advance and try to get people to see what our plan is.
sure, okay.
I don't think there's anything been too negative. I mean, everybody's been pretty positive about things moving pretty fast.
Right.
And they do appreciate the updates. I've gotten lots of thank yous
Yeah.
letting us know.
Yeah,
I guess we take the advice of what our contractors, Memert and Wicks tell us, I mean, that's their specialty.
yep,
I don't believe the tear out on the crosswalks is gonna be that long at all.
Right.
It's, you know, you got a good base there, they'll scoop that out.
mhm.
They're not using quick dry cement either, are they?
No,
Nope, it's just the regular stuff, but we have been experiencing good breaks on that.
Okay.
What do you mean by good breaks?
They've been exceeding our specifications at earlier dates. So normally we're requiring 4,000. At 7 days, we're seeing above that, and at 28 days, we're seeing, you know, 20-25% higher than that.
Okay,
Meaning good concrete.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so the only other item I want to address on this pay request here is we have we had a contingency amount for miscellaneous building preparation in the realm of $30,000. As we continue along these older building phases, we have spent the time and materials on doing miscellaneous preps on building faces. There's been smaller pole chutes that really couldn't be seen from the inside that they had to backfill up against and pour into. There's been concrete that's been attached to buildings that required additional sawing, so they'd saw cut it once and then they'd have to come back and they'd have to chip away and they'd have to saw cut. A bunch of things that we didn't directly account for, but we had that contingency in there. At this point, we're at $22,000 of that 30, and by the end of it, we're probably gonna be right around that 30,000 that we kind of had expected, so.
okay.
Old buildings, things pop up, we're working through it.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, Gen X has never had, I don't think they've ever been a contractor here before. How is that relationship going?
It's been going good. They've been doing good work.
Other than that, cleaning up the airport?
Yep. Yeah, some of the communication that we gotta be a little better on, but the actual installing and utilities, it's
Okay.
been good.
Do you want to let us know when that gets cleaned out, just so we know?
Yep. Yeah, we told him it has to be done by the end of the week,
Yeah.
so.
And I believe he's been talking directly with Wayne, but we'll make sure that we get something
Yep.
scheduled.
We'll make sure it's taken care of,
Yeah.
Yep.
one way or the other, so.
Okay. Do you have anything else for us?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right,
Thank you, Scott.
thank you. So number 5 then, approval of pay request number 2 for $196,904.94 to
I'll go ahead.
Generation X Construction LLC for the 7th Street West Reconstruction Project is next on the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Creener,
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
Buska.
Yes.
Carmen.
Yes.
Number 6, approval of pay request number 2 for $320,493.69 to Wix Construction, Inc. for the downtown crosswalk project.
So moved. Second?
Carmen,
Yes.
Buska.
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
Creener.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, Library Director Jordan Moore to present the annual update of the library.
Hi guys. So I think they sent this out, but I did update some, so I printed more copies just in case. Whoops. And I always need visual aids.
Thank you.
Do you have one too, Michelle? I have extras. Thank you. All right. So I'll try to make this short and sweet for you guys, really just kind of focusing on some of the main statistics that we really look at. So our big thing is we just ended summer library program. That's our really busy season. We've really slowed down now, which has been kind of nice to get some of our stuff done. So on the front page there, we have just the program attendance. So this is the number of people who attended for the summer library program. So for the children, we had 758 children attend the summer library program. We had 16 teens. For general interest, so these were groups that could be for teens or children as well as families, and so it's a bigger group. We had 403 people attend. That was a total of 1,177 just for our summer library program, which ran from June 1st to August 16th. So pretty short, but really good numbers, really high participation, which is exciting. On the back side there, I also did annual program attendance. We just finished our fiscal year, so this is the last fiscal year. It does not include the summer library program for July or August. So some of the numbers are included, but some aren't. So for our children, we had 198 programs with 3,132 people come.
Excuse me, is that in one fiscal year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes it is, yep, from July 1st of 22 to July 30th of 23. For young adults, they had 5 different events. These were mostly school events, and there were 108 people who attended. For our adults, we had 66. That was 354 for attendance. General interest, again, just a bigger age group, is 2,386 people who attended. We have passive programs, so these are things that we set out, like my staff will create puzzles or a little display and ask people to write something or engage with it. We keep track of every person who engages with it as well. That's called those passive programs. That's led by my librarian, Roxy Zubrod. We had 125 throughout the year with 1,036 people attending and using those. So total in-person events, we have 352 with 4,926, and this is active live programs. If we include the passive programs into that, we get a total of 479 programs and 5,798 people who attended. If we compare that to last year, we had 169 programs and 1,306 people attend. So a huge difference. I just went through the statistic book for the public libraries of Iowa for last fiscal year. For our program attendance last year, we were in the bottom 25th percentile. If it's consistent, we will be in the top 80th percentile for our numbers this next year, which is really, really exciting and not at all like what we expected. It's kind of outgrown our space a little bit, so we're trying to be creative, but it's a good problem to have. And so because I like numbers and data, the second chart is program attendance since the year 2000. Other than the year 2006, we've never had as many people participate in library programs, which is really, really exciting to see. The year 2000 was the first that I could pull data from, and that was before I was in kindergarten, so it was really exciting to see too. And then, so the next page, another metric I keep track of is new patrons, so people who sign up for library cards. This past year, for the fiscal year, we had 370 people sign up. Last year, we had 222. Previously, it was 88, and then the year before that was 91. It's important to remember those are years that the pandemic was on, so we were closed for like at least 8 weeks during that time. I can't remember exactly. So that is a metric that's kind of weird because we have just the COVID there. I expect that data point to drop off relatively soon within the next 3 years because there won't be all those new people still. They'll hopefully have library cards. And then the next one is circulation. So these are transactions that we do with our patrons. So for books, print books in our library, that is 81% of our transactions. We checked out 19,712 books. Non-books, so magazines, this would also be people who use the computer or hotspots or anything like that. That only takes up 4% of our usage, and that's at 2,788. Audiobooks are kind of a dying industry. CD players are not as common anymore and are really hard to find. That only takes up 4% of our, the 4% for the magazine is not right. It's the 2,000 is way higher than the 900. Sorry about that. And so the non-book is higher than 4%. The audiobook is 4% and 944. There's multiple libraries that are completely getting rid of audiobooks entirely.
Oh, no.
I know. We will not be doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I pitched into them and I was like, we will not do that for our patrons. They would get very angry. Videos, so those are DVDs. That is 10% of our circulation, which is way higher than most libraries, and that's due to Cresco having a pretty wide wealth disparity, so people who have access to those streaming services and then people who don't. And so DVDs are really popular, and they had 2,488 checkouts. Interlibrary loans were only 2%, which is really good. We don't want to have to be loaning books in from other libraries all the time. We want the money that the city of Cresco gives us to get books that people will actually read rather than outsourcing it. I don't ever really want that number to get higher than 3% because then I think we're not doing our job with purchasing if that's the case. That was 374 transactions. And then digital checkouts are our ebooks and our e-audiobooks through Bridges and Libby. That has seen a huge increase since COVID. We had 9,386 checkouts over the past fiscal year. That was a total of 35,692 checkouts, and then on the very last page, I have another line graph. It goes back to 2017. You can't see the dates very well. And so there's been a steady decline, as you guys can see, where COVID really hit and took a drop off, but we are inching back up towards the top. I didn't include the data from 2016 because they had over 100,000 checkouts, and I don't know how feasible that is, but it is a good goal to look into. So we're on the trend going up there. The last thing that I included was an event calendar for you guys. So this is pretty standard for our events. So when we do programs, we try to do programs that are pretty low maintenance and low cost. That way, it's not too much on the budget or on our time to try to prep them. All of these happen every single month, and they don't take a lot of prep for us. The only one that really moves is listed on this month on September 8th, which is Larry Reese, the Winnebago County conservationist. He comes in at least once a month, and that date does change. So I wanted to include that with you guys. This is how we're really getting a lot of those program numbers, is we just have a lot more available that we hold constantly that people can just drop in. So there's some weeks we don't have anyone come, like we have computer help on Wednesdays. We didn't have anyone last week. We had 7 who showed up today. So it ebbs and flows as well. And then just a couple things I forgot to include in here. For our summer library program, we also did a reading challenge, which was really, really popular. We did it for children, teens, as well as adults, and gave away prizes to each of those groups. Since June 1st to August 11th, because I had to cut off a little bit earlier, the community of Cresco read 161,000 minutes, which is equivalent to 120 days, which is longer than what my timeline allotted them. And what was the most surprising is that my teenagers were the ones who led the entire group for reading. So even though we don't get young people necessarily checking our books out, they read 57,000 minutes in the summer for that challenge. And so they really pulled in for the turning in their bookmarks. And so just because we don't have their circulations, they are still reading, which is really exciting. And I think that's all I have. Do you guys have questions?
This is good stuff.
Thanks. It's been exciting. And I have, my staff are all really wonderful. I really work hard because I want them to care about what they do. Most of them live in Cresco, so they have more of a buy-in into the community than I necessarily do as an outsider. So I really try to find what they're interested in and what they would like to do, and try to find intersections where their job, which is like the Color and Calm with Roxy. She did that in her own time at a different event and brought it to our library because she liked it so much. And so my staff have worked really hard for programming. I'm not the main one who does it, so it is definitely all for them. Especially my new children's librarian, Kim, has been incredible. She led the summer library program this summer, starting in February, which was crazy and the biggest we've ever seen. So it was really tough, but it was really wonderful. And she's enjoyed every minute, which is really nice too.
Good.
Yellowstone with Larry Reese, is that kind of like a little National Geographic moment? He brings in video and goes, okay.
Yes, yep,
Cool.
so he changes the topic every month. And so last month it was wildflowers in the summer, and so this one is Yellowstone. So he has either gone to these places or has done research on them, and he has just an hour-long presentation. He also brings it to nursing homes and other care facilities, and that's how I found out about it and asked him just to add to his schedule so it's not any extra work for him too, which is really nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good job.
Thanks, guys. If you guys ever see any ideas, especially for programs and stuff like that, please let us know. We're open to try almost anything, and we'll stick with things that work. The only other thing I think is that the State Library of Iowa is doing trainings about city and libraries working together. The library will hold sessions for my board trainings in the evenings, so the library will be open. You guys would be welcome to join the trainings if you want to, but we'll be there nonetheless. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Yep, you too,
Yeah.
thank you.
Bye.
Number 8, motion to approve the updated credit card policy. And
So due to the retirement of Wendy Bohr, we had to get a new credit card, and so they're putting it in Leighton Bohr's
Yeah.
name, I believe. Let me find my paper. So Otherwise, we left all of the credit limits the same. So the only change is changing the park one to Leighton Board.
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Buska.
Yes.
Creener.
Yes.
McConnell.
Yes.
Carmen.
Yes.
Number 9, resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing with H-GAC. Do you want to give us a little rundown on that?
So in the budget is a new tanker truck for the fire department. Actually, I think we've maybe had it budgeted a couple of years.
Yeah.
They finally now have found what they want and are ready to order. So instead of writing up the specs for it and then going out and trying to get 3 different bids, you can belong to this program, this HGAC, and what they do, it's a national firm that goes out and does the bidding process. And so once you hook up with them, then you kind of pick what your base truck is going to be, and then you don't have to go out for the bids because they've already done the official bidding process. And then you can tailor make it for different things that you want on your apparatus. So there's several different firms that do this, but I did go out and look at making sure, because this firm is out of out of Texas. And so I wanted to make sure other Iowa cities are using it. And there was a whole list of counties and cities in Iowa that are using it, all the big ones, Des Moines, Grimes. It was 2.5 pages, 3 pages of cities that are using it. So I feel confident that they've had good luck with it.
So basically what you do is you go to them and you tell them this is what our budget is?
No.
Not really.
You tell them what you want for a truck more. Then they come back with everything that you want. So here's the list of all the cities that have used it.
I think a lot of
So-
school districts use them as well. I know there's a different group besides the HGAC that, and I know that I've looked into it a few years ago, I think it was for the Ridgeway Fire Department, and this school was part of the other one. I don't know if they're on this list or if you look for schools on there, but it's.
Yeah, most of these are counties, state, Iowa Department of Transportation, Region Council of Governments, UNI, Urbandale, Waterloo, Waukee, Iowa City, Davenport, Coralville.
And this is just for fire trucks? Is this just for?
It's for all kinds of
This is
stuff.
everything. So what you're saying is this is something we could be looking at in the future, street sweepers, end loaders, trucks, et cetera.
Correct. So it doesn't cost anything to belong to it. It's just a contract that you sign. And then if you approve it tonight, then we've got the contract for the new tanker truck with all the specifications that they have written out here, so you can have more detail than you've ever wanted, but it's for a Freightliner, 2025 model. So the cost of the truck is $429,000.
Excuse me, through them or through just going directly to the manufacturer?
So this towing that we got the estimate is through this HGAC.
Okay.
So if we have to sign this contract, and then if we want to go ahead with the truck, which the fire department committee met yesterday with the manufacturer and went through everything, and so they're recommending that we accept their proposal. We had originally budgeted $385,000.
Was that a split or was that just city?
So that's 50/50 with the rural. So our half is $196,000 that we have budgeted. So this bid is about $45,000 more than what we had originally thought. There is a $10,000 cushion in here because when you order your chassis, they won't say what the price is until the day of delivery because the prices are going up so fast. So there's a $10,000 cushion there that they've seen. Most of the time that's but
So you can just about guarantee that 10,000 is gonna go.
it might.
So you're
so that-
439,000 now.
So even if we order it right now, it's 13 months before we get the chassis, and then 790 months,
No.
790 days, I'm sorry, 13 months before we get the chassis, and 790 days, so 2 years and 3 months before we get the truck. So, so it's still out there a ways, but there's really not much choice. I mean, he said they've been looking out for like a year and a half. They've been kind of shopping.
We had this
trying to-
discussion a year ago at a meeting.
Exactly.
I have a
So,
feeling the chassis is gonna come sooner. We're going through a similar process at Ridgeway Fire Department, and just from where I work, I think the chassis are gonna start coming sooner, but maybe not either.
Are
I
they?
mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
So on the specifications on this truck, we're talking single axle Freightliner truck with roughly.
It's a
probably
tanker, so basically it's just gonna haul water.
4,000 gallon tank.
2,000 probably. I didn't look at the specs, but typically, and it would be on the one that said Toyn, I think I saw.
no,
I'm gonna assume it's around 2,000, it might be 2,200. That's typically what a single axle water truck will haul. If you go to 2 axles in the rear, then it might be 3,000 or 4,000, but for just a single axle, I think that's what they talked before anyway. But yeah,
I realize things are getting crazy. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around $429,000 for a single axle pumper truck.
it's
Or
not a tanker, yeah.
truck.
I know. Our pumper in Ridgeway is gonna be 1,500 gallons, I believe, and it's more than that, but not a lot, but more than that.
so
There's no used fire trucks. Cities keep them till they're dead.
Well, this one would be.
Yeah.
the firefighters are, they haven't committed how much they'll kick in, but they have kind of indicated that they will kick in, possibly about the amount that's over our original budgeted numbers that they had given to the rural and to us. But they haven't taken a vote on how much exactly they're going to kick
But
in.
we've had the money in the budget for several years already.
Right.
And that amount you said was,
380,
So our half is $196,250.
just less than 200,000.
Yeah.
The question I have is that if you went with this company, so who do we issue the check to?
So it's Toyn Incorporated is who the purchase
bid come
agreement
from?
would be from. They're out of Breda, Iowa. Right, I don't know how to say that, I've never
They're
heard of
close,
it.
yeah. West Central, I think, West Central Iowa,
Okay.
if I remember right.
So they go out and find the bid for it.
Kind of,
So
yeah.
these guys would build the apparatus. So they'll get the chassis from, it's a Freightliner,
The company, Toyn will probably get it for them,
right?
typically, yeah.
And they build the tanker and all
Yeah.
the pump.
And then we have the option, they gave some discounts on if you wanted to pay 50% on delivery or 60, 70, 80, 90. So I used our good annuity calculator, Amy, and said, is this a better deal or not? So she ran the numbers on if we could put the money in the bank and just wait and pay on delivery, or is it better to take these discounts? Every way that we ran it, she ran it, it was better to wait and pay it at delivery time, even if interest rates fall to like 2%. I put in like 1%, 2%, and it was still always better to wait. However, they do have a discount if you pay for the chassis upon delivery. There's like an $8,500 discount on that. So that one's actually better. So we would pay like $119,000 about a year from now when that chassis comes in.
On the chassis.
And then the other 300 1,000 or whatever on delivery, which will be 2.5 years or two years.
There
from
must be
now.
some pretty specialized equipment on this tanker, though, I
I
mean,
didn't look at it. I know when they talked to us before, basically, there might have been a small pump on it, and water, and I mean, that's typically what a tanker is, and I didn't look at the spec, but I mean, there's not much else to do with them. Yeah,
So this HGAC is kind of like the state auto purchasing program?
Correct.
Where they go out and they negotiate the price, and then they just publish it for all of us to look at.
yeah. I don't remember how HGAC gets compensated for all this, if Toyne does that,
I would guess,
because we don't,
That-
right?
right, we don't, there's no fee to us to use HGAC. Right, whether there's an increase in the price of the truck, yeah, I'm sure it's built in there a little bit. They have to be making some money on it, but I don't know how else we would go for bids on it, you know?
Well, if it doesn't cost us anything,
Yeah.
it'd be kind of a no-brainer.
and I'm sure Neil has done his due diligence and talked to other fire departments and other chiefs, and
And it just really seems like, so they have a committee that's been working on it. I think Neil kind of excused himself from a lot of it because he's a salesman for Sandry, which isn't
Not
a
associated.
bidder
with this.
anyways,
yeah,
but,
nothing to do with that.
but
so.
he kind of left it to his committee, so they've got kind of variety, I think, of young guys and older guys, and making sure that they're getting what they need and want in the truck. He doesn't feel that it's extravagant. They tried to keep it to what they need. But I know the price tag is unbelievable. But I don't know what we do.
Well, I mean, the resolution to sign the agreement, I would have no problem with that, 'cause it's not gonna cost us nothing.
Second.
Moving along.
So
So
Rich,
you're, in that, is that okay to go ahead and sign the agreement for the truck as well? Or do you guys want to research the specs more before you?
Well, we can drag this thing out for another year. I mean, if we got a company that's gonna do it, we got a guy that sells trucks, works the trucks, got one on order. I mean, this is all within the scope of normal business.
right, yeah,
I mean, we're taking advantage of group buying.
yeah.
Ain't gonna get any cheaper. Let's move forward.
A second for that?
Second.
No, I think Jan did already.
I assumed Richard was first. I
Oh.
was second.
You were a second? Okay. Carmen,
Yes.
Creener,
Yes.
Buska,
Yes,
McConnell.
Yes.
And then,
And I'm assuming you agree with, let's pay for the chassis and get that discount, and then we'll
would
pay the
say so.
remainder upon delivery,
Yeah.
right?
yep.
Okay.
all right, number 10. Resolution updating electric vehicle charging station fees.
Does
So-
anybody use the thing on there? I've never seen a car in front of it.
We've had about one a month. So we're just barely paying for our electric bill. So, although we do have inactive, so if they leave their car parked and they walk away from it, so we charge them $2 an hour if they just leave it there, and somebody paid us for 4 hours of sitting there. So we made $8 on that car for sitting there and doing nothing, but the reason why we had to increase the rate is because Iowa put a new excise tax on EV chargers, which accounts to 2.6 cents per kilowatt hour. And so Blink will not do that for us, so we have to actually, once we get the money, then we have to pay the state of Iowa. So we wanted to raise the rates by 3 cents to pass that on, so.
All right,
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
McConnell,
Yes.
Carmen,
Yes.
Creener,
Yes.
Buska.
Yes,
final on the agenda then is the resolution authorizing transfer of funds for fiscal year 2024, September transfers.
And these are all due to our budget amendment that we approved earlier. A lot of them are, when we borrowed the money for our projects, we didn't borrow enough for the projects. So I built in some transfers to, just in case I need the cash, but I'll only transfer it if needed, so.
How often do we see, we get paid the extra 1% sales tax every month? Do you track that, if that's going up, going down in the last year, 2 years, or?
And actually, I did one not too long ago of showing what it was. It's been up, ever since COVID, it's been a lot higher than we ever used to be. They used to annualize it, so they would say what we were gonna get in a year, and they would tell me exactly what I was gonna get every month. Last year, they changed it, so now it's based on whatever the sales are, period. So now I've got this, where like February might be really high from Christmas yet, but then June is really low, you know, so the months are kind of crazy, so.
And what is 1 month revenue on the 1%? Do you remember off the top of your head? But that's fine.
Sorry.
Nope, that's fine. Okay. But they're going up, which means people are spending money in Cresco.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what also helped was they kind of cracked down on the internet, collecting the sales tax on your
Yeah.
internet purchases, because now, I don't know if you noticed in the last few years, now you get charged, you know, once you put in your state, then
Right.
you're getting charged that 7%. And I think before, you were supposed to claim it on your income taxes, and of course, nobody did. So I think that might have helped a little bit too, but I'm not real sure.
Okay. So a motion?
So moved.
Second. Here, can I-
Creener,
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
Buska,
Yes.
and Carmen.
Yes.
And motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No, no,
Motion.
no.
Oh, sorry.
Closed session.
Next would be a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5.
So moved.
Second.
Carmen,
Yes.
Buska,
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
and Creener.
Yes.